Well, I don't know. Obviously, this is going to be a spoiler review. We could go through characters, talk about some characters, and then we could go through.
It could be not that much of a spoiler review, though.
I'd like to. I don't want to care about spoilers.
We'll talk about what happened.
We don't have to like blatantly go through every single thing, but I think if it comes up where you're trying to like mention something, then
Yeah, that's true.
What were your thoughts overall?
Overall,
Yeah.
Star Wars Episode 7,
Yeah.
I think, was a good movie.
If you remember the original 6, do you at all? Or?
I do remember at least 4 of the original 6 pretty well.
Which are?
I know 2 and 3 pretty well. I know 4 pretty well, and I know 6 pretty well. And then 1 and 5, I'm a little hazy on.
5 is the best one to me. I really like 5.
Yeah.
But I mean, first of all, I need to preface it by saying that this is my. I'm not a big fan of Star Wars. I don't know if you were.
Overall?
Overall, no, I'm not.
Okay, all right.
Alice, come here. Alice, come. Matt. Yeah, I mean, were you a big fan as a kid, or?
As a kid, no. I now have a lot of friends who are very huge Star Wars fans, and there's a lot of things that I find a little weird about it, but I think overall I like it quite a bit. There's a lot of good stuff that I think overshadows what I see as flaws, which are not necessarily the same to everyone.
Yeah, and I think one of the big reasons is, for me, that I'm not a huge fan or wasn't a huge fan was I think that original trilogy is now, especially the first film, is a totally dated first film, and it's good for its time, but it's not, it's nothing spectacular by today's standards, in my opinion. And then obviously the original trilogy was terrible. I didn't even like that thing when I was in 4th grade. So
the original trilogy, 4, 5, 6.
I'm sorry, the prequel trilogy.
Yeah,
the prequel
1, 2,
trilogy.
3.
Yeah, but I basically think those are some of the worst films ever made.
Yeah, they're not great, but
what I liked most about this one is the characters, especially the 2 new leads. I think they're completely refreshing and kind of, I don't know, you just really get the sense that they are real people in the world. Like, I don't know, all the acting is super immersive, and I think there would have been a disconnect.
Relatable.
And I think there would have been a disconnect if, like, all we followed around was Harrison Ford. Because that's kind of what you see him as now, is Harrison Ford.
2 of your main protagonists aren't, like, super stud,
right?
Generic hero types.
Yeah.
But they do end up being heroes, which is really good.
Mm-hmm.
It's good to see. Anyways, one of the things I found interesting was, speaking of, the prequel trilogy and the original 3, is just in terms of, like, plot and, like, sequence of events, it seems like the Episode 7 is kind of following the trend of 4, 5, and 6, where there's, like, the struggle against the Empire, which supposedly was destroyed at the end of the 6th one, but is back as though nothing had ever really happened. They just kind of, the original trilogy was like, oh, there was an upset and the Empire is created. 4, 5, and 6 is you have to destroy it, and then 7 just kind of resumes of, no, there's still the Empire. So you kind of get to relive.
But it's not even the Empire.
Yeah.
And it's kind
New
of
name.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's not the Empire, but it totally is.
It's the Empire.
And it's not. I mean, look, JJ did a fantastic job directing the film, and like no one I think could have done it any better. So I feel like I'm walking on eggshells when I like even complain about this movie, because it's like, especially compared to those prequels, man, like, how bad it could be, and like this really couldn't have gone any better. But if there was something I was to complain about is something like that, where it's just like feels like it retreads too many things, and I don't really like care if it's like trying to introduce it to a new audience. The only people that are gonna be introduced for the first time to those original 4, 5, and 6 films are gonna be kids, kids who haven't seen them, and those movies are gonna hold up for kids perfectly fine. So it's like, why do you need to, it's like continue the story, which they do, but it does get pulled away by like repeating the exact same
Yeah.
story. I mean, seriously, another
Anyone who's familiar with episodes 4, 5, and 6, you'll know that it's a lot of the same type of plot.
points, yeah.
But
I mean,
I think it's kind of nice because you kind of get to relive, in like with a modern kind of twist.
Yeah.
A lot of the stuff that you liked from 4 and 5, although you don't have to give the most points for creativity, and at some point they'll need to make prequel for 7 to somehow explain how you got from 6 to 7.
Maybe they will. I know they're doing Rogue One.
Episodes 6.2, 6.35, and 6.9.
Yeah, each one is 2 hours.
Yeah.
Then they'll really be milking it. But like, I wanted to mention the specific of, just because you reminded me about how how it's repeating certain points. The fact that like I was in shock when. I mean, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I was like, "Are you kidding me?" When we were when they have like the holograms up in front, and they're like, "All right, how are we gonna infiltrate the Star Killer?" And they're like, "Well, we gotta like blow it up from the inside, and then go through this narrow passage." And then, and it was like
blowing up a planet-sized laser.
You're literally doing the exact same thing. Like, that's pretty amazing.
They had the countdown and everything. Just like, which one was that? 4?
That's 4.
Yeah, 4 and 6. It's not yet operational.
I think it's 4. Yeah.
And then you got the Rebel base. You got your 40 pilots still wearing the same gear, somehow fighting the entire Empire.
Not to say that this
or first. What is it?
First Order.
First Order.
Yeah, and not to say that this idea is like really better. I'm just curious what you would think. Like, do you think it would have been more interesting if they did something where they like where they're like, all right, we're gonna like trigger this thing that's like absorbing all this solar energy to like be unable to stop absorbing that solar energy, and it absorbs so much energy that it eventually explodes. Like, even though it's the same thing, it's the same means to the end of like destroying the Star Killer, like
somehow use a single starfighter to blow up a planet.
Right, yeah, and I just wish that like it was not that, like couldn't they have like been like, all right, we don't have to choose the exact same strategy.
Maybe we just escape this time, and it doesn't happen.
Right, or something like that. Yeah. Okay. Well, actually, yeah, and another one of my favorite things is obviously the amount of prosthetics and real locations and sets, animatronics. I mean, everything is there, and it's almost it's.
I thought it looked pretty good.
It looked amazing.
It looked amazing.
Yeah, it looked beautiful.
It was.
I love that.
There's a lot more effort.
Oh my god!
Than many other things made these days.
Basically, any film you see, like it looks like there's just more physical effort, put into like really making the world believable, and that's awesome. I love the part where Finn is goes to drink from the well, and there's that like big thing, and it like knocks him over, and it really feels like, oh, here's this guy like super thirsty trying to drink water in a galaxy far, far away next to this like alien hippo thing. It feels more real to me, like, which made things like Snoke, Supreme Leader Snoke, the big CG dude, and who
isn't necessarily big,
who isn't
hologram,
he's not
normal sized man,
or maybe he's a little man.
Maybe just
he's got
he's a little sensitive about his.
But so that stuff stood out to me. Yeah, even the I forget her name, but the one with the glasses.
Yes, it's the one who runs the watering hole, quote unquote. That's what Han Solo refers to it as.
Oh, really?
Yeah. The bar.
Yeah.
The alien bar, which is exactly also from episode 4.
The cantina or whatever.
Yeah, just cantina again.
Except the animatronics are just obviously the budget is leaps and bounds above what the original Star Wars was, and the technologies progressed immensely. So it looks, the animatronics they have in these are not. They're a completely different animal from the ones I remember in the original. They're so much more real looking and believable. I think one of the things that actually makes the original Star Wars look so dated is that like you see these dudes with like rubber suits and you see the rubber bouncing, which isn't really a fault to the directing or anything because it's budget restraints. But in this, all that's omitted, and they they throw all their money at like making these things look as real as possible, and I love that. But anyway, so my point is that the CG characters, there were 3 CG characters. There was Snoke, there was the crazy monsters, and, on Han Solo's ship.
Yes, I remember. Wait, those weren't really characters.
Not characters, but
yeah.
you know what I mean. Like, there's 3 distinct CG moments that...
Yeah.
The only one that felt necessary to me was the lady with the glasses. Honestly. Because she's, like, tiny, and I don't know. But I just didn't... All those things stood out to me, but that's like...
Even with the monsters on Han Solo's ship, they have a lot of, like, physical interactions, right? They grab people and pick them up and throw them around, and at no point was I, like... there's clearly some divide, like from the Hobbit.
Well, right, yeah, right.
Probably
where
one
they're
of the
like
worst examples of
exactly
abusive
or best examples of bad CGI or the thing that the Hobbit did terribly.
Trying to mix real characters with
have real characters interact with this. It was obvious, like at least with Finn, when it picked him up. When the tentacle picked him up, it looked like they really had lifted him up on wires or something, and then added the CG later. Whereas in The Hobbit, they would have never done that, or Peter Jackson would have had them like stab a green little head, and replaced it with something else. So it is done better, but it pulled me out of it, especially the tentacle monster things didn't look complete to me. They looked really fake. But again, it's really hard to not sound like you're nitpicking in this movie because there's very little to complain about. It's a good movie, and I enjoyed it thoroughly.
I actually have only one real strong complaint about this movie, which is actually a trend in a lot of movies that are made nowadays, which is comic relief, and I think abuse of comic relief, which
fair enough,
which can make movies leaps and bounds more entertaining, just like a whole next level above. But takes away from a lot of the seriousness of just any situation. You might start to get scared for some characters, or start to have some concern for the plot, and then someone just cracks a joke, and it could be great, but it kind of takes you away from it reminds you that you're watching a movie.
Right. Yeah. Especially, and actually the first... I was looking at other reviews, and they were saying, like, the way that we're introduced to Poe Dameron is, awesome. Like, because he makes a joke when his, like, life is in danger. Remember? He gets captured. Yeah. And he, I don't remember what the joke is, but he makes some joke.
He says, do I talk? Do you talk?
Right.
Who talks first?
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Right before his friend got turned into sliced in half by a lightsaber.
The reviews I saw are like, oh yeah, like that immediately tells us this, that this movie has a sense of humor. It's not all serious like but it's like, it does have a sense of humor, but that was actually, I think, the most inappropriately placed part of humor in the entire movie. Almost
all throughout this movie, it was anytime things started to get serious, they just kind of bleed off a lot of the tension with a joke. They're trying to rescue Rey in the middle of a hostile place full of stormtroopers.
I love the Wookiee's cold thing. I love Chewbacca's cold. That was a funny joke.
No, the chin thing.
Oh, what's this? Yeah, totally. I know what you mean.
It was because at first I was a little scared. I was like, they might not find her. Like, something bad might happen, and I really want these two to be able to be like happily ever after, but this could not happen, and I was really scared. And then they made that joke, and then cut to scene. She opens a door, and they're there.
Right.
It was just kind of like, I'm not worried anymore.
Exactly. Totally. Yeah, I totally get that. And I don't. You know what I was referencing there. I do love that joke.
The cold.
Where like Chewie's cold.
Oh, when he.
Okay. Also, it's so refreshing to see a female character, like a female protagonist, like become the hero and save the dude's ass for once. You know? And it's so nice to see it not be Jennifer Lawrence. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just like.
I think it's a step up from Leia in the original movies.
Huge.
By quite a bit. She was a little bit of like damsel in distress. Yeah. As tough as she was.
Yeah. Right, exactly. I think this is leaps and bounds above what that was, and I love her character. She's actually probably one of my favorite characters from all 6 films. And I like Finn. I like Finn as well. I think they had great chemistry. I think that was the most important thing. And so I'm happy to see them.
And they did a pretty good explaining her backstory too, without any specific details, like kind of, getting you to understand all her motivations, without spending a whole lot of time on flashback.
And the way that exactly.
Like she's still waiting for someone to come back to her, and that's the driving force in her life. Mm-hmm. No one ever did.
And I like that they fleshed that out a little bit. It feels more natural. Yeah. The way that she doesn't just give expository dialogue in the beginning of the film when she gets, when she finds BB-8 and meets Finn. She doesn't just flat out tell him I've been waiting for my parents to come back or whatever it is. It's you kind of find that out in little, increments along the story, and it just makes it more interesting. And obviously it would just be bad writing if she just flat out explained, she was explained to Finn, she was explaining to the audience what exactly her motivation was first.
I did like that a lot.
Yeah. And you see from the trailers, I always got the impression that she was somehow trapped on that planet.
Yeah, she was trying to buy her way out somehow.
Right, exactly. But
no, she was just waiting.
Yeah. See, and the action is, the
action is good. I like it.
Yeah.
It's quite good.
Mm-hmm. It's grounded, which I like. Which is a step back, no flips and blah blah blah. It has that awesome Millennium Falcon scene.
In the
escape, yeah, that was really well done. You really felt like you got that feeling of inertia, as the cameras flips sideways with the ship and all that, and you're going into crevices with it, and it worked really well. So
yeah,
super successful.
One of the best of that type of scene, aerial chase.
Yeah, I agree.
I thought it was quite good. And then also character development of Rey. Mm-hmm. One thing I found really interesting that they actually deviated from episodes 4, 5, and 6 is the whole, obviously she's just a nobody on a desert planet, scavenging for scrap, she's somehow got the Force in her or whatever, but she doesn't know that. Kind of just like Luke was in episode 4, just some moisture farmer who was hoping to go to join the Empire to become a pilot one day because that was his only way out. And then it took, 3 movies of his training, basically. The first one, he kind of gets introduced to the idea that the Force exists. The second one, he goes to Yoda, and he's still not powerful enough to defeat Darth Vader. And the 6th one, it finally all comes together. This one, that whole process was over the course of one movie where Rey basically starts out a nobody. And at the end, she's she is
Do you think that
she's basically 75-80% Jedi?
Yeah, don't you think that happened a little fast?
Yeah. I understand she's chosen one status, bringing balance, but it makes the current Dark Jedi, what's his name?
Kylo Ren. Yeah,
it makes him look a little weak.
Yeah, which is exactly.
Which is they hammer it home because he's
shot, though.
Yeah.
They really try to make it clear, he's really injured, Yeah. But still, speaking of him, what did you think of his character?
I thought it was quite a good character. Yeah. He's obviously power hungry, like every Sith Lord or apprentice is, except for his search for power isn't based off of, saving someone he loves or some kind of corrupted.
It's more of an
anything.
Image.
He's trying to live up to the family name. He feels like his power is insignificant compared to his grandfather, Darth Vader.
No, his grandfather's not Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Grandfather. Son of Leia. Son of
No, it's
Darth
great
Vader.
uncle. Great uncle.
Son of Leia. Son of daughter of Darth Vader.
Oh, Leia's. Oh, you're right. You're right. Sorry.
Grandfather Darth Vader.
Yeah, you're totally right. Yeah, I don't know why I thought that.
But I really like that that kind of aspect of, there are many things that corrupt. Anakin just, started off, he felt like people didn't pay enough attention to him, and then he wanted to
it's kind of Anakin
save
done
his
right.
wife. Yeah. And Anakin without the weird 12-year-old behavior.
Exactly. Yeah. It was he was a brat. Kylo Ren was kind of a brat, but he was a scary brat. He could fuck shit up, and he obviously had scary powers and was capable of doing things.
And it kind of leaves you excited. Also, Episode 8. What is it that went so wrong that Luke Skywalker, up and left?
It explains.
It says something went wrong and somehow this guy.
I think you're supposed
evil.
to. You don't know why exactly he turned to the dark side, but
Gonna need prequels.
You know that he uprooted his Jedi training thing or whatever training course that he had. Kylo Ren did, and then broke off.
Yeah.
Did you understand that?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're saying you want them to explain exactly what
Well,
happened?
it's missing the kind of
the punch
prequel backstory that the first four have of where Darth Vader came from.
I'm sure it will, Luke.
And
will
why
explain.
Luke Skywalker disappeared, all that.
I'm sure it'll be. Well, it does explain.
And also, that's another kind of parallel. Luke Skywalker goes off; they have to find him, just like Yoda.
Yep. Yeah. Yoda and Yoda.
Just Yoda. He was the last one. Yoda and Old Ben.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I thought of something golden.
Really?
No, I thought of something...
What is it?
Well, I can't remember. Jeez, what was it? Oh, yes! This is something that actually kind of bothered me throughout the movie. Han Solo is the same, right? Same character, same, lovable, charismatic, comic relief, confident guy, everything. Princess Leia, old woman...
Mm-hmm.
Useless. Not the same Princess Leia.
Yeah.
Not the same Princess Leia from before.
It's more implied that she's not useless. Do you know what I mean? They tell you she's a general, and so you kind of take that okay. So
they call her the general, but she's no Princess Leia in the same way that Han Solo is just the same old Han Solo.
Yeah, she doesn't have that.
She's kind of like Queen of England type deal.
I think she didn't do a very good. I think part of that is that Carrie Fisher just didn't have the best performance.
Yeah, I could have. I would have liked it a lot more if
she smoked one too many cigarettes. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I mean, her voice is It's a little gravelly there.
I think that's really the only thing in terms of,
Mm-hmm. No, I totally see what you mean. It does explain though that they were so distraught. I think by their son turning the dark side that they kind of went on their separate ways.
Yeah.
But again, those are little filler lines. They don't necessarily give you maybe as much as you want, but
it's just I felt like it was a little missing from the it's not the same dynamic as before.
Mm-hmm.
Han Solo and
which
Leia.
you wouldn't expect it to be though, because their original dynamic was.
This is many years later.
Yeah.
A lot has happened.
But I understand your
But Han Solo retained all of his likable personality.
Yeah.
And Princess Leia became a little old and tired.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else that you can think of?
I like the Stormtrooper. The Stormtroopers are people too.
Yeah.
I like that.
Totally.
Never really... The original...
I like that
all the original movies ever made, anything you ever heard from a Stormtrooper clone was just blast them.
Yeah.
That was it. That was the full extent of it.
Yeah.
They have intonations now, and I'll drop my gun, It's not just...
Right.
These are not the droids we're looking for.
Yeah, you're so right. It was, by the way, I heard that was the Daniel Craig cameo. That was him.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
With an American accent, I guess. I like that they reference the prequel trilogy. There's one reference, I think, where he says, "Do you want me to get the clone army?" Or whatever, because, I'll do that. He threatens to, get this really shitty army is the implication to, replace it. It's an insult, it's supposed to be, which is a jab at the prequels.
Well, there's real negatives to a clone army. They age real fast. They only stick around for 15 years. Probably expensive. Yeah, that's the whole point. Accelerated aging. Oh. They you don't remember episode 2.
I don't remember any of that.
The army is created of fully grown men, fully trained in 12 years or something. And then they all die, and that's why they get stormtroopers.
But anyway, I like that it kind of at least acknowledges that lore and that history, and it kind of ties.
I like the lore.
Together.
I do like the lore. not necessarily like jokes about trash compactors.
Yeah.
That they just they're just trying to cram in as many references as they can.
Yeah,
but,
trash compactor. Yeah, it's kind of forced.
Yeah. No, but there's a lot of interesting things to touch on just based on the wealth of knowledge and history surrounding this series. Which is part of the reason it makes it so fun to watch, and also part of the reason that you have so much to talk about. Like if this were just a standalone kind of movie, there'd be a lot more just like face value. You know, how much did you enjoy it?
Totally.
All we have to talk about is how it fits in, which I think is significant. Maybe less so for young, not huge Star Wars fans, but
yeah, maybe watching this as the first one.
Yeah.
Which
new generation
is pretty doable, actually.
Star Wars.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so final thoughts.
Final thoughts.
Unless there's anything else you want to add.
I'd see it again.
I would too.
Which isn't true of every movie. Not even movies I like. But I would see this one again.
Yeah, I think I would too, and I kind of want to.
It was very enjoyable.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna buy this on Blu-ray for sure.
Yeah.
And that's saying something because I don't know any of the other ones on Blu-ray.
It's not a work of art. I'm not gonna take it as my life inspiration, but I definitely watch it a lot.
Yeah.
Which is, I guess, all you can really ask from a movie.
It's like one of the first great fantasy films we've had in a long time. A long time.
What other? There was a. What about like all those space movies I haven't seen, like Mars and Interstellar? Are those fantasy?
I wouldn't.
They don't count.
I would skew them closer to sci-fi.
Yeah. Okay.
You mean The Martian?
Yeah, The Martian.
Martian's way closer.
Yeah, it's
to
way more
sci-fi.
grounded. It's just like 20 years in the future.
Yeah, exactly. Certainly there could be an argument made for Interstellar as a fantasy, but even then it's kind of a stretch. But no, there hasn't really. So yeah, I mean it's nice to have something that's starting to feel like it could, maybe it's clawing towards Lord of the Rings status. In my opinion, like
in terms of like just quality.
In terms of depth, like
depth.
In terms of my interest in the world. Like I love the Lord of the Rings and I love that world, and I could watch those movies all the time. Even though I think the Hobbit movies are pretty bad, I can still watch those because I like that world, which I think is the same way.
Lord of the Rings was just way stronger of a background story because it was a real, like, series of books written by a real artist who devoted, decades of his life building up this thing.
Yeah.
Whereas like this is like.
I wrote a screenplay in a year.
It's much better adapted to movies because they just are movies.
Totally.
But I agree that there's a lot to explore that you want to learn about.
Yeah, I'm starting to really feel that world, with this one, which I like.
Except for they keep destroying planets. There's not going to be many planets left at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. So, do you have a score? Need to give it
a score?
Yeah. I'm gonna give it an 8.5 out of 10.
8.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
No, out of 10. Serious note. I don't know. Oh.
I mean,
it definitely. I don't know if I'd go lower than 8. I certainly wouldn't go higher than 9.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I guess
between 8.5
I'll
and
say
9.
8. I'll be a little more conservative.
Okay. Cool. Great. So that was our review of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Nice.
Good
First review in a really, really long time. Last
Ages.
one we did was, what was it? Was it An Unexpected Journey?
I can't remember.
Last one you and I did?
Yes, I think it was.
That's ridiculous.
3 years ago.